Friday, October 4. Further Thought. We read in The Desire of Ages, page 203, Jesus had given him, that's the disabled man, no assurance of divine help. The man might have stopped to doubt and lost his one chance of healing, but he believed Christ's word, and in acting upon it he received strength. Through the same faith we may receive spiritual healing. By sin we have been severed from the life of God. Our souls are palsied. Of ourselves we are no more capable of living a holy life than was the impotent man capable of walking. Let these desponding, struggling ones look up. The Saviour is bending over the purchase of his blood, saying with inexpressible tenderness and pity, "Wilt thou be made whole?" He bids you arise in health and peace. Do not wait to feel that you are made whole. Believe his word and it will be fulfilled. Put your will on the side of Christ. Will to serve him, and in acting upon his word you will receive strength. Whatever may be the evil practice, the master passion which through long indulgence binds both body and soul, Christ is able and longs to deliver. He will impart life to the soul that is dead in trespasses, we read in Ephesians 2:1. He will set free the captive that is held by weakness and misfortune and the chains of sin. End of quote. And then on page 209, Jesus repelled the charge of blasphemy. "My authority," he said, "for doing the work of which you accuse me is that I am the Son of God, one with him in nature, in will, and in purpose." End of quote. And that brings us to our 3 discussion questions for this week. 1. Reflect upon this week's lesson. Faith was the key that made these healings possible. The leaders, in contrast, revealed the dangers of doubt and unbelief. Why must we not confuse having questions, which we all do, with having doubt? Why are they not the same thing? And why is it important to know the difference between them? Question 2. Look at Thursday's final question. Why, as Seventh-day Adventists, must we be especially careful about this danger? However important, for instance, knowing and even keeping the right Sabbath day or knowing about the state of the dead, why do these truths not save us? What does save us, and how? And question 3. Look carefully at John 5:47, which reads, "But since you do not believe what he wrote, how are you going to believe what I say?" How are those today who, for instance, deny the universality of the flood or the literal 6-day creation doing exactly what Jesus warned against here? And reading our inside story, our mission story for this week is Sibylla Harrold. Thank you, Sibylla.
Heaviness in a Camp Cabin by Andrew McChesney. An eerie heaviness rested on the red wooden cabin as 8 Alaska native girls prepared for bed on their first night at Camp Polaris, a Seventh-day Adventist summer camp in southwestern Alaska. All the girls felt it. The cabin's 2 counselors felt it. It was an intense feeling of evil and harm. One counselor, 21-year-old Rachel, was physically exhausted but couldn't sleep. She sensed evil angels were more prevalent than usual. She thought about the 8 teens in her cabin. Many of them had been abused, practiced self-harm, and struggled with drugs. One girl's uncle was a shaman. Rachel got up and stoked the fire in a small black furnace. Even in August, the Alaskan summer nights were chilly. She began to sing about Jesus. Naturally shy, she didn't like to sing, especially by herself. But the song sprang from her lips. As she sang, Rachel visited each bunk bed and prayed with each girl. Finally, the girls fell asleep. After that, Rachel sang every night and prayed with the girls. One night, as she made the rounds, she asked a girl if she had any prayer requests. "Yes, I want to pray to be safe and protected," the girl said. "Safe from what?" Rachel asked. The girl said that in the darkness of the previous night, someone grabbed her by the neck. As she struggled to breathe, a bright light appeared, and the unseen being released his grip. In the bright light was an angel, and he said, "Do not be afraid." Peace immediately swept over the girl. She fell asleep and hadn't mentioned the incident to anyone until she spoke to Rachel. After Rachel prayed with her, the girl became more interested in Jesus for the remainder of her time at camp. She was a quiet girl who didn't say much, but clearly a seed was planted in her heart. Rachel was delighted when the girl returned to camp to train to become a staff member a few years later. Rachel Carl, who now teaches at an Adventist school in Sitka, Alaska, still volunteers at Camp Polaris, the place where she witnessed the reality of the great controversy between good and evil as a young counsellor. Working in Polaris has shown me that there are people in the United States who do not know Jesus, she said. Working at this camp was why I decided to become a teacher in Alaska. Thank you for your 2016-13 Sabbath offering that helped repair and expand Camp Polaris so more children could attend. Part of this quarter's 13th Sabbath offering will help open a centre of influence at the Adventist Church in Bethel, Alaska. The Bethel Church sends local children to Camp Polaris every year.
This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind. Sponsored by the Sabbath School Department and distributed through Hope Channel Australia, this podcast is also redistributed by Hope Channel Germany, Christian Record Services for the Blind. It is also available on SoundCloud and through multiple podcast distributors, including Apple iTunes. And you can listen and watch at the same time on YouTube. Remember, God is always faithful.